right, you guys can start.
Mm, dun dun dun.
I have no idea how to start this.
Okay.
You go
Hello
you first.
and welcome to the final asterisk probably episode of the Villain Fiber podcast for season 6. I'm Liv,
And I'm Carlos.
and we're here to ruin everybody's day with our chaos. That's how it goes at Villain Fiber. Well, last time we left off, we were at a tie. It's final 9, and the tie is between Toxic and just to check one more time to make sure I don't screw up. Toxic and Frost. We left off at the tie. So eventually, what happens at Final 9? I think we might need to.
I'm scrolling down.
Trying. Well, let let me give the basic rundown. Eventually, after a long deliberation, it does not go to rocks. It actually goes pretty. It actually goes pretty in favor of one person over the other. In the end, from an initial 5-5 vote, it goes from to a 5-2 vote. 5 votes Toxic, 2 votes Frost. Toxic is voted out. The first Monokuma voted out in the merge, really signifying the end of the Pagonging.
Yeah, making some people wonder if the video that Abe had released back then, if it hit some chords, and finally a Monokuma was voted out because of that.
hmm And and in the end, I really think this was the turning point for a lot of the game. What went from a pretty straightforward Pagonging with all of the Osamis and about 2 Monokumas consistently on the losing side turned into turned into a game that really you really never know where to turn next.
Yeah. So maybe we should move on to the to the next episode. Maybe we will have some more to say about it.
Sure, that's a good idea.
Let me open the document I have with all the blackened tasks to make sure we are, because we always start talking about the blackened task. So for the next episode, the next episode, Mary was the blackened, and his task was to create an alliance chat with people picked random by the Pancake Bot, and it has to have at least one person from the opposite starting tribe. Uh, Mary didn't take too long to consider it, and an alliance with Tristan, Mina, Tenna, and Frost was created. And there was a funny situation when Mary created the alliance chat that everyone was like, "Oh my God, this guy made an alliance chat and he's like trying to sweep under the rug what just happened in the previous trial."
I just want to add that this was my idea. Get it right. And it worked out beautifully. The amount of chaos in that episode was amazing. And it really threw Maddie's game into jeopardy, not necessarily in a game dooming way, but in a what the fuck is he doing kind of way,
Yeah,
which is
everyone
kind of the chaos
immediately
that we
called
want to
him out.
sow.
But yeah, that reaction, everyone like it immediately backfired. No one bought it. That was really something. And the challenge for the episode was a live challenge, live in quotes. It's just more than one person had to be playing at the same time. Was the rebuttal showdown tournament, which is basically they would in a tournament bracket, two castaways would face each other and they would throw each other words that started with the last letter of the word that person throw them. Like someone say yo-yo, the other person say orange, the other person says evil, and then so on, so on. But they couldn't repeat any of the words said that round. They could repeat in another match. We had some battles that I scored that challenge, and we had some battles that lasted really long, and some really fast ones. I want to check who was that ended practically right away. Um, yeah, it was it was between Frost and Barney. So like in total between them there was one, two, three, four, uh, five words. Frost basically bespells xenophobia, and we. I was allowing them to correct the words along as is in the time frame, but they couldn't do fast enough. So that's the match was over, but it was a really tense but really fun challenge to see them going through. Did you watch or see anything of the challenge?
I only spectated it briefly. All I know is that I would have sucked. My reaction time is absolute shit. And the fact that people were able to go on so long, I think is pretty amazing.
Yeah, honestly, really kudos to everyone that participated. That was a really good challenge. Everyone, even with that blunder, I think that's the word. It was a still good tournament, still good challenge. Um, Also, I noticed some people, I think it was Barney that came up with that strategy. Think of words that end with X and Y, because that would be hard for the next person to think of a word. So, and if that did help or not, Barney did end up winning the tournament and winning the immunity that episode 10.
Mhm. No more amenities. Well, for now. Wink, wink.
Anything to note before talking about the elimination?
Well, no, really. This one was a pretty straightforward episode, in all honesty. So, because Maddie eventually ended up getting the blackened vote, it really came down to once again, the blackened vote. Like, there's no,
Actually, the blanket vote here wouldn't matter because Tanner was voted out this episode on a 5 to 2 to 2, and the blanket vote was on Tanner. So if you remove one vote, it would become 4 to 2 to 2.
yeah, but at the same time, I really feel like the blackened obviously falling onto the other side
Yeah,
really
no, no,
shifted the
true,
power
true.
balance for
But
that
let's say if
episode.
a vote goes on someone else, it becomes 4 to 3 to 2 to 4 to 3 to 2.
Hmm. Yeah, in all honesty, it really was just the disorganization on the part of the what I'm gonna coin the resistance because that's basically what they are.
Yeah, the poor Usami trying their best to survive until the end.
Yeah.
I really hope that that doesn't come up on the on the record the what you call it, the sounds outside.
Yeah. I don't hear anything outside.
All right, so I guess we can move on to the next episode.
Yeah.
It really sucks when we don't have episode recaps to help us.
I mean,
Gabriel must be shouting at the in the audience like, "That's why we have," because that helps so much when we go through each episode. That we're like, "Oh, we can talk about this and this and that. We know that this is what happens in that episode."
mhm. But hey, we this season truly has been chaotic. So there may be times where we can't keep up exactly, and it may not necessarily be our fault because we have such interesting castaways this season that sometimes we can't capture every single little detail in time.
True. So moving on to the next episode, episode 11. First, let's talk about the challenge because the blanket task involved the immunity winner. So let's put that aside for now. Um, and next episode was touchy subjects. So
Which
your
was
usual touchy
interesting.
subjects, which gives you the questions and voting for majority, and you answer. I
Hmm.
mean, I actually don't have much to comment on because I didn't follow the challenge. I take the blame on that one. I only knew the questions and everything,
I
but I
mean,
didn't follow the answers.
it was
And
pretty interesting. I saw a few people on the opposite side saying that Phenom was going to be the next one to go, which I thought was pretty interesting because, from my perspective, Mina was one of the people that I was certain was not going to go.
one thing I have to comment though, I think one of the questions was who is most likely to betray you. And I think Barney was the no, Frost was the person who won that, like was voted as the person that would most likely betray you. But um, but Frost ends up winning this challenge. It has a pretty interesting blackened task, which was giving their immunity to someone of their choice. And
Yeah, I
considering
really
that, oh hey, Buffus,
holy shit, it's Rufus.
I was going to say that considering that Frost just got the person most likely to betray someone else, and they no questions asked, they didn't hesitate. They gave immunity to Mina.
Yeah, which I think on one hand, there's the idea that if Mina truly was in danger, they're trying to save someone that they don't want out. But then there's also the fact that Mina, I think, was in a pretty good position that episode. I think giving immunity to Mina was probably the least inflammatory move on.
Yeah, and in actuality, some people were commenting on maybe Frost gave the immunity to Mina because Frost has an idol. Which is funny because we only had one idol this whole season because no one wanted to vote the blackened out. And I mean, no one wanted to, but also like the blackened ended up being on the majority alliance most of the time. Um, but like, uh, there was only one idol, and like later on, I think yeah, it's an episode we're going to comment. It's the last episode we're gonna comment. Um, Someone even wonders like, oh, there's a vote block, which would only happen after three idols were formed. So like,
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
mean
how
that's
they were like, we are not voting out Blackened, but then somehow we think there is another idol, and we think there is a vote block. I don't know if the math matches up.
whatever. Paranoia can get people. And when I say
Yeah, it
get
can lead
people,
some
I mean
interesting
get people.
situations. So since it's Mina, do you have anything to comment on this particular vote out on Maddie?
Um, well, honestly, I kind of saw this one coming a mile away. Maddie had a hard time connecting with everyone because of the age gap, and while that's not necessarily his fault, it doesn't mean that it didn't impact his game. And what's the other thing I'm trying to say? Um, and ever since he created that alliance, I really feel like it took a lot of people's doubts about him and like tripled them. So I think him taking up that blackened task was the beginning of the end.
Yeah, definitely. Um, but yeah, um, moving moving on to the next one, next episode. Next episode was really interesting. Let's talk about the blackened test first because that's where it comes the thing I was mentioning. So basically, the blackened task this episode was for the first time and only in this season where it would be a two-parter or that would happen for two episodes. And only the blackened knew that. Because the task was forfeit your vote for this in this episode, but you get the two votes on the next one. And that landed on Barney. And um, Barney ended up saying that he uh, voted, but he came up with an interesting strategy, and I don't know if it already came up or like if the fruits of that strategy already happened because I don't know if I haven't seen on the other confessionals. I haven't seen Barney bringing up it again. But basically, forfeiting your vote made him so he would talk to his alliance about using the same parchment. And with that, he can hide and say, oh no, my vote was there. My vote was there, was that one.
I mean, yeah, that was a pretty smart move. And I think that's a pretty ingenious way of thinking. Although I question why we haven't outlawed something like that because
I mean,
it
there's
really takes the
nothing in
fun out
the
of the game.
I mean, there's nothing in the rules, I think, that says that you can't uh, maybe share the parchment or like send the same image and people have it. I mean, if anything, it's the other's fault for trusting or going with you.
I know, but at the same time, it's less about like situations like that and more about the game isn't fun if you can identify which votes are which immediately. I mean, sure, people have signature styles and stuff like that, but it doesn't necessarily mean you immediately you immediately can see a lion's lines.
Yeah, I understand that. And but jumping a bit off the shark here. Let's talk about the immunity challenge, which was one of my favorites of this season. Like I think almost every challenge that I scored and I was hosting it. I loved every single one of them, which was the debate scrum or the family feud challenge. And honestly, the only thing that I would change because there was a bit of an issue when I passed down the torch to Emma.
Mhm.
Because when I talked to Emma, I said, "You know that I like things being true to the original or like have a semblance to the original. So that's why I wanted the doubles and the triples rounds um, to be at least like it gives opportunity for people to actually win any round. Doesn't like be there is a clear winner, and
Mhm.
also like it's just like Family Field. But when I passed down the torch, I didn't mention that no, they can answer the same thing. That's why you put a timer, so it's the people with the faster time. Because Emma, knowing that in Family Feud you can't repeat answers, Emma made so they couldn't repeat answers.
Mhm.
And because of that, I think Mariano got upset, and I understand. And I and also Emma ended up saying that Emma was sorry, it was her fault, and I actually told Emma, don't worry, it's not your fault. I was the one that I should have clarified better. Because in Family Feud, they can't answer the same thing because
Because it's like it's the
no,
quick
sorry,
because
no,
in
I got
Family
a message.
Feud, you
I
can
got a
see each other's
message.
answer.
No, I got a message. So that's why I paused. Sorry. Um, I was going to say because in Family Feud you are playing together. That's basically it. So when you're going against each other, there's no reason why you should um, you can't try to get the higher points.
Mhm.
But yeah, so that's the only thing that I would change. I think the challenge was fun. The challenge
I think it
worked
was fun too. I
perfectly.
would have loved to play in it.
And I'm going to say something for Gabriel because there was. So one of the questions was, what serial killer do you it comes to your mind when you read this question? And I was talking about not allowing joke answers, but I think. there is a like a line that you can cross when it comes to joke answers. Obviously,
Because
I wasn't going to.
there's a lot of joke answers in actual Family Feud.
Yeah, I mean, naked grandma, or what was the? Oh, there was one that was actually accepted, and like, I forgot the host's name, Steve Harvey. I think that's his name. Like
Yeah,
he loses it because they say something so absurd, and then bing, like it shows
it's
up on the
on there.
board, and he just loses it. I don't remember what was it, but the thing is, I wouldn't accept stuff like that involved politics and religion. That's the two things that I wouldn't accept as a joke answer. But
Yeah,
then I
because those
saw
are important topics.
Gabriel. Two people answered Gabriel.
They answered Gabriel.
I couldn't resist. That's why Gabriel was on the board.
Amazing. We should really
I
just
wasn't
rename Dylan Viber
acceptable.
to Bully Gabriel Central.
But yeah, that's the reason why I accepted Gabriel. It's no hard feelings. I'm not sending any dark messages to Gabriel.
Why not?
It's just that I was
That's
giving. I
fun.
was only giving the two people that answered Gabriel what they wanted.
You were giving the people what they wanted.
And
Democracy.
he left us and he made a great moment in the season where everyone saw Gabriel on the board.
Yes.
So because of Mina going and like answering all the top answers basically, or like most of the top answers, Mina got immunity.
Queena.
One thing I have to say that in my mind, every time I see Mina's name, I only remember a Brazilian song, which is like Mina, seus cabelos é da hora. It's like I think it's Brasília Amarela, the name of the song. But like Mina in another sense, Mina like a slang for girl, basically.
Honestly, they've got a point. Nina is an icon, and she is a legend, and she is the moment. And we'll see that in the coming episodes.
And honestly, this elimination in F6 was one of the toughest. I think I saw everyone was like not wanting. I don't know if it was with this one or Mina, but I saw so many people like didn't want to even see Frost's last words.
I don't know. I think Mina was the saddest vote out
Wait, wait,
because
wait. Speaking of last words, I almost forgot that one. Since we're talking about, sorry for cutting you out.
yeah, it's fine.
It's because it's relevant to the last episode. Uh,
Hmm.
Maddie left some words for the castaways,
Yes, some very much. They were very much words.
and in stroke accord, everyone was flipping out. Do you have any words on that? I think.
Um, I really think that was a pretty big hail mary there, and
Yeah,
I think he really took it rough. I totally understand where he's coming from. Honestly, I think it was kind of funny.
yeah, I loved seeing everyone's reaction and seeing Maddie's reaction in Ponderosa because he only did that to see the reactions and answers. And I think that's really a really interesting move in a jury position. I mean,
Hmm.
what were you going to talk about, Mina, before I cut you off? Sorry about that.
I don't remember what I was gonna say, so it's okay.
Oh, we were talking about sad eliminations and people
Because
not wanting to
Mina,
see last
Mina,
words.
Mina, like she might not have like from a strategic standpoint, her social game was a little bit above average at best. But she's just such a nice person that everybody was sad when they had to vote her out eventually.
I think I think Frost as well. I think it was both these eliminations. I just trying to remember which one was the one that people were like, "Oh, I don't want to see their last words. Oh, this is sad. I'm sorry." I think it was to both, but I don't remember which specifically one. Because I also think Frost was a really sad elimination.
I can see where you're coming from for both.
They were really good. They were really good. I mean, like good players in a sense that social and stuff. But like sadly, the Pagonging and everything this season, I think that
Yeah,
affected
I really
and
feel
everything.
like this game had a chance to be super interesting. Like it was already it's already pretty interesting as is. I'm not saying that it's not, but I really feel like there's a universe where the Pagonging never happened and this game
Yeah,
took
the
off.
universe where we made it, the first episode being two different tribals, not the same one.
It's all about that first episode.
It's the snowball that keeps on coming.
I really
uh,
wonder what it would have been if it was two separate. I mean,
honestly, honestly, I think it would
I think
literally change the whole game. I think because it would become a 9-9, and it's not that it's not one tribe uh, over the other. I think it would surely change the whole season.
mhm. Like I could see Quinn making it further. I could see how I
Oh,
could see
Queen definitely would make it further. It was because it was the two tribes together that Queen was voted out.
mhm.
At least one
No, like
more.
I'm not
At
talking
least one
about
more.
just surviving the tribal. I could see Quinn making merge, becoming a social queen
Yeah,
because she's also
definitely.
an icon and a legend and the moment.
Honestly, I think definitely all of this. I think just Queen would like, but Queen being the game, it would change the whole board.
Because Quinn, I think, just has a naturally bubbly personality that people like being around. And because of that whole VC Alliance thing, I really feel like that set her up for failure just a little bit.
Yeah, you can notice that after I think it was after merge, there were no more VCs, which is sad. It put
Yeah.
off people from using the voice chat. So coming up for before the next episode, I want to touch upon the thing that I mentioned earlier about the vote block because there was one vote missing this episode, which was Barney's because of the Blackened task. And because of that, there were only it was a 4-1 in a final six, so there is one vote missing. So one of them, I think, was Mariano that asked, "What was the final vote count?" Because I think only Mariano noticed it. There was a vote missing, and it was a 4-1, and Mariano jumped to, oh, so there was a vote block. I'm like, wait, so in
Nobody
Mariano's
could do
head,
math. Nobody
like
could do
in
math.
Mariano's head, there was two idols in play, and the idols could only be played up to final six, and no one played the idol on final six. Like that's the logic.
I mean, like I said earlier, paranoia can do shit.
But I don't know. I don't know if Mariano brought up the idea of a vote block with the others because I don't think Mariano talked about it again in his confessionals about the possible vote block.
I think it was just a passing thought because honestly, with such a fast-paced game, you really think one thing and a minute later you forget you even said the thing, which I think really made for a very interesting season up until the end game, which we're at now.
Also, speaking of Mariano, we started seeing a sad pattern with Mariano, starting with the Family Feud challenge, where Mariano would keep putting his challenge answers in his confessionals
I mean, mood.
when it was told to be used on the submissions channel. And this happened on the Family Feud, on the next one, which was the trivia one, and the most recent one.
I mean, I get confused so easily. I could totally see myself doing that.
It's just funny that he did 3 times in a row in 3 different challenges. Um, so
Maybe
yeah,
he would.
on the,
Maybe he was doing it for the lulz. Honestly,
I
I
mean,
could totally.
it could kind of cost him. I don't think it cost him on in the trivia one.
I mean, at this point, somebody brought it up anyways.
Oh no,
It's so
wait,
late into
sorry.
the game. It would be ulting.
He couldn't do Family Feud on the confessional. Sorry, it was the trivia one and the last one because the Family Feud wasn't on either confessionals or the submissions. But yeah, it did twice in a row. Um, but yeah, the next challenge on the next episode, we started off with telling them right away after saying that Frost was not a black end, we gave them right away that there is a black end. And Naran flipped. Naran is not having it with the black end.
Legend, honestly.
If like we put up the poll for them to vote about the like for the awards and everything, and Rand immediately was like, "Who is responsible for the black and twist?"
And you're just like, I thought it was a good idea.
I'm out of here. Honestly, no hard feelings against Naran. It's just really funny seeing Naran losing it. But yeah, the interesting thing is that when we try to announce the blackened test, it's like, okay, one of you did something. But like, so maybe people can look at the chat and see or like the challenge, the tribe or anything. But like when it's immediately, you makes you wonder what was it? Are we starting the episode with a blackened? Uh, but it was that Barney got his double vote from for giving immunity to Mina. Oh, to yeah. Oh, wait.
No, he gave his
Oh,
vote out.
sorry. Gave his vote out. Sorry. He couldn't vote on the last episode. Barney had an interesting strategy, but we'll get to it later. As we talk about the trivia challenge, which was also really good. Did you follow the trivia challenge?
I kinda yes.
Once
I mean,
again,
I
this
think
is another
I
one
think
that,
I think it could have been executed just a little bit better, but at the same time,
yeah,
it's not like anybody would actually take the time to go back and scroll through thousands upon thousands of messages just to win an immunity challenge.
that's what I was going to talk about. The only thing that I would change is make it so it's the first person that answers. But I had a I had a reason for that for making it so it's submissions because it's more of a brain over speed, you know. Because if you put as the first person to answer, it's speed. I wanted to
Hmm.
see people trying to actually think about it or like search and everything, like or at least think about it, try to remember and stuff. Um, and then, but yeah, and Barney wins that immunity, and it was basically a sweep. I think Barney answered every question correctly, and also he got the number of pages visited on the weekend, which was the final tiebreaker, correctly, like on the dot. It wasn't even like because it was the closest to it wins, like wins, but he has to also be the fastest.
I mean, hey, that's what happens when you pay attention, does it not?
Oh yeah. Um, and Barney has a really interesting idea because coming into this tribal, um, Barney and Randy has 0 votes. They don't have a vote on their name. So Barney uses one of his votes to vote on the red.
Just to fuck with his game. I respect the move.
Oh, Elk is here! Yay! Elk comes to
Elk,
save us.
give us structure, please, please, please. We beg you.
What is this?
Help
What do you
us.
need?
Help us.
Structure.
We have been struggling.
It's been a struggle.
All right. Where are we at in talking about the last couple of episodes at this point?
We actually on the last one.
Okay.
We were talking about the tribal in F5 right now.
So at this point in the season, right here, we're at our final 5 tribal, and like, no matter, um, you know, no matter what happens here, it's going to be a huge impact on the way the end of this game plays out. There's a couple players who seem like big threats to win at this point, and it's
And then
just a
there's the
matter
jury
of.
goat.
I mean, we'll find out whether they end up being goats or not. Like, yes, it looks that way right now, but we'll see whether it stays that way or not. Because right now, almost everyone seems like they could win, and almost everyone seems like they could lose.
Well, the case was different about 24 hours, about 30 hours ago. So who knows? Some things can change again.
Exactly.
Elk, do you have any like comments on the challenges that happened on these past episodes?
On the whole, I think the challenges over these last couple episodes largely went pretty well. I especially think the Family Feud challenge played out in like a really interesting way. And I
Yeah.
think we ended up getting like a wide enough variety of responses from our audience, which is one of the keys to having a successful Family Feud challenge. That like not everyone says the same thing, and I think this one largely went about as well as it could go. Like it was definitely interesting enough to work well.
Oh, no, it could have gone better because I mentioned to Liv, I mentioned it in the recording that So I had something to. My birthday's coming up, so I had to actually leave. So I passed the baton to Emma to continue for me.
Emma's
But
here.
because I,
Hi, Emma.
but yeah, but because
Also,
I
happy
told
early
it,
birthday.
thank you. But because I told Emma that I like keeping it close because Emma wanted to check on like the structure of Family Field. Emma thought, okay, so I'm not blaming Emma, by the way. I said that it was completely my fault for not communicating right. But basically, Emma was like, okay, in Family Feud, you can't give the same answer in Fast Money. But the
Oh,
difference
okay.
is in Family Feud, you do that because in Family Feud they are working together. So
Right.
basically, like, oh, if they don't repeat the answer because maybe they can both get the top answer, and you get the top answer doubled. So that's why in Family Feud they don't repeat answers. But Emma did not repeating answers, so he left Mariano saddened, like. And I understand Mariano, I understand Emma. It's completely my fault for not communicating right. But still, it would be Mina still got a lot of the top answers. So, and Emma said that they also didn't get many of the top answers. Like there were not many that they were like, oh, it's repeated, and it was the top one. You know, I think
Yeah.
the ninth one was the biggest one because everyone
Mhm.
would answer a blade or like anything related to knives or cold weapons.
Right.
I think that would be hilarious. Actual Family Feud. What weapon would you use to murder?
Yeah, on the list of Family Feud questions that Steve Harvey would give very disapproving glares at the contestants for, I think that one would rate pretty highly, no matter what they said.
Honestly, I'm surprised that we didn't have anyone saying "good answer, good answer."
After the
That's
way
one
saying
thing that
good
we missed.
answer went in season 3, I with the whole Zalek situation, I can understand in this server maybe people not wanting to do that again.
I
But
wasn't
yeah,
here for season 3, so I can't say anything.
So basically, during the Family Feud challenge, there was a strict rule that said you will not be allowed to compete in the rest of the challenge if you say anything while someone else is guessing. And
uh,
Zalek said, well, I think the first thing he said was good answer, and then get and he was given a warning that time. And the second time he said bruh at something someone else guessed. And at this point, Zalek was told, like, hey, you've broken this rule twice. You're not going to be allowed to compete in the rest of this challenge. I think originally the tribe was even going to get disqualified from the challenge, but then they talked down to just he was going to get disqualified from the challenge, and he ended up getting in a big fight with production and quitting the season.
honestly, I think that, which is funny because I didn't watch that, so I guess me being lenient and letting people talk in the challenge like channel while they are giving answers, I think I think it worked out really well. There was no
I mean,
situations
ultimately, the
like
most
that.
important thing is like having consistent rules and communicating them clearly to the contestants. At which point, like, no one can complain too much. And sure, it's good to like have relatively lenient rules if you can, but clarity and consistency are ultimately like the most important thing.
I think as long as I had like, as long as no one was like cheating, like giving an answer, like I was, or I would only accept like, okay, this is your answer, so I would go with that. So as long as they were communicating their answers properly, no one, and there was no cheating, I didn't see a reason not to not let them like talk.
Yeah, no, I would tend to agree with that as well.
we didn't want to have because I would understand also not wanting to have another situation which we had with Minesweeper.
Yeah, where we have like spectators giving information that should not be given.
Yeah,
But
but I think with this one was harder because imagine trying to pass an answer with like emojis.
yeah. Well, I mean, obviously you can always like spell things out, or in the case of the murder weapon question, just put a knife on it.
Yeah, but the the
Knife
uh,
emoji.
the the murder weapon question was in the submissions, which was the fast money one.
Right, right.
So yeah, at least that one that wouldn't happen. But also, I think the spectators would have a harder time to cheat on this one because even if they answered the form, they don't know the top answers. They
That
don't know
that's
which
true
ones
too.
made it to the board.
Yep, exactly.
So yeah, back to the to episode 14 maybe, or do you have something else to say, Elk?
No, go on. Let's continue from there.
So we basically just went, basically every episode we were like, this is the Blacken test, this is a challenge, this is the winner, this is the law, the elimination. That was a structure. We didn't go much into details because also the recaps are missing. That also helps when we are talking about
Yeah.
here in the podcast.
No, so it's definitely been an interesting group of episodes that we've had this week because, as you'd expect for this late in the game, like most of the threats to win the game are going out here. Like this is collectively like the fallen
The
angel
final
territory.
countdown.
Like, sure, some people will strictly say that fallen angel can only be the final juror, but
Which is
those who are not like
not
the
in this
most
case.
purists about the terminology will say that the fallen angel can really be anywhere between about 7 and 4. Usually like 6, 5, 4, but sometimes even as far back as 7 depending on the season. And I think we've had a couple of fallen angels going out of this game in these couple episodes that we've been talking about here today.
And we've had
Right?
one very important final angel that we're about to get into.
Yeah, so I mean, Frost was definitely something of a fallen angel this season, but then here at Final Five is where we're gonna get probably the biggest fallen angel of the season.
Not only the biggest fallen angel, the fallen angel.
Probably.
The icon and the legend.
So let's talk about how this vote decision ends up going here. Like, who appears to be on the chopping block as this vote is going down? Like, do you think it was just always going to end up being Mina here? Or do you think there was anyone else who realistically could have gone out in this spot?
I really think there is one world where there is one parallel universe where Barney throws the vote on Naran. Mina convinces Tristan to vote for Naran. Then it's a 3-3 tie, and it either goes to rocks or somebody flips. But that's
I mean,
like one out of a
I
million.
assume Barney just flips Mina out there anyway.
Who knows? He might want the
yeah.
big move.
I mean, I guess this is where we come down to that question where perception is reality in the game of Survivor, where Naran has been like trashed in so many of the final words that people are starting to think Naran can't win. And it's going to be a big question of can Naran win or is Naran unable to win at this point? And like I can definitely see both outcomes happening where Naran is a massive no vote goat or where Naran just ends up walking in saying, "Look, my fingers have been on every aspect of this game the entire season. Like, give me the check and give it to me now." And the jury just goes, yes, okay, here you
Well,
go,
shit,
Naran.
he's right.
I mean, like, that's the question is, once the final tribal starts, how angry does the jury stay? That's always one of the big questions, and you never
I
know which way
mean,
it's gonna go.
the angriest juror is now out of the picture, so
Do we comment
Yeah,
on that?
I mean, we can at this point say that Abe has left Ponderosa and is no longer a part of this jury for personal reasons.
Yeah.
So, like, the angriest juror, especially the angriest juror at Naran specifically, is no longer part of this jury. And I could see almost everyone else, even like Skylar, coming around and voting Naran, if depending on how Final Tribal goes. Now, I could also see a world where, like, someone else, hypothetically Barney, walks into Final Tribal and, like, Barney has been seen as something of a quieter player by most of the other players, but I think Barney's been putting in enough work behind the surface, has a case to make. Like, there's a world where Barney just walks in and demonstrates to the jury that he's earned this as well, and, like, that's that.
Yeah, I've been saying a few times, if Barney survives the most recent episode, which we are not covering this podcast, but like um, I
because it
think it's
hasn't
going to
finished
be
yet.
a yeah, I think it's going to be a Barney versus Tristan finale. I don't see any other way if Barney survives.
Unless everybody just pulls a massive fucking troll and just goes, "Hey, we can't decide between either of them, so why don't we just vote the fucking go?"
that
I mean,
that
I
would
don't
be
think at this point we have any goats, ultimately. Like, I think
Well,
we
I'm
have.
not saying that Naran is a bad player, but if Naran is up against both Barney and Tristan,
yeah.
both completely outshining in the two areas where
Same with
Naran
Mariano.
lacks.
Even less with Mariano. I think between Mariano and Naran, Mariano would have even less of a chance.
Yeah,
I think Naran is
Yeah.
stronger.
Like, I think everyone's going to have a case to make for themselves at the end. And, like, it depends on how willing the jury is to listen. And it depends on how well they can make that case and how well they can say, like, that it was their decisions and not the decisions of the others. And, like, I think that Naran is going to have a hard time making that case, largely because of bridges that he's burned, but I don't think it's impossible. Like, this isn't the situation where
nothing is
people are like,
impossible, besties. Nothing is
no, like,
impossible.
this isn't one of those situations where, like, the jury is going to walk in and be like, Naran, you literally never talked to me. Our message count is 10. I'm not voting for you. Like, this isn't that kind of situation. Like, you see those every once in a while, and I don't think we have that here.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the only person who was like super, super, super anti Naran was Abe, and Abe is gone. So
Yeah.
Yeah. I think of all the like, if I would choose three people that would make the strongest final tribal, would be Naran, Tristan, Barney. At least
Yeah,
Naran would put a really good fight.
but
It's not disrespect against Mariano, but I'm just comparing against the others. Not saying that Mariano played badly or if Mariano was bad during the season, but I think the others outshine.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I mean, I'm definitely curious to see what he would have to say for himself if he's still there at the end. But, like, I think he's probably the least favored to win at this point.
I'm curious
So
too.
as this vote comes in at our final 5 tribal, there are 6 votes because of Barney's blackened vote. Barney decides to throw a random vote on to Mariano. Mina votes Naran, and then the waterfall comes crashing down on Mina. 1, 2, 3, snuff. Right, 4-1-1. Mina goes out.
Cries,
What
sobs, throws up, dies.
almost seemed to be like a very straightforward and obvious result given Mina's dominant position in the game. When someone that dominant is not immune at Final 5, there's typically not a whole lot of options for what's going to happen. And it's interesting because in the start of the season, there was a lot of, okay, Mina's not playing very well, and then all of a sudden, creeps up, and all of a sudden, holy crap, Mina's winning this game unless we stop her. And
Look,
that
who told you that? Let me just. Who told you that at the beginning of the season? Who told you that?
By the way, I just want to say I never doubted Mina. I don't think I've ever doubted Mina would do good.
I've never said that anyone on this cast couldn't do it. I said I'll believe it when I see it, and I saw it, and I believed it.
Yeah.
You have to show it. You have to prove it.
I told you, and you said, and you were skeptical. Remember when you said Mina was going to be 11th on your player rankings and character rankings?
I mean, that's what I said at that time, and she did things after that changed that. I think that it is, where someone is at the moment and where they end up are not always the same. She had the potential. She hadn't done anything in this season with that potential yet, and then eventually she did, and she moved up. That's how it works. And I think that makes a lot of sense.
So, Elk, I had one thing
I
to
was
ask you
Mina's
about
biggest
as well.
fan since day one, and I was determined to prove all of you wrong. And guess what? I did.
I mean, I was never against Mina, so I kind of was not
I know
too
you were
wrong.
never against Mina. I'm just being melodramatic for the lulz.
Do you have anything to say about the Maddie's final words, Elk? The situation that, struck a chord with everyone.
I mean, we're going back to the final 7 tribal here for a second with Maddie's final words. You're saying?
Yeah, it's because there were a few moments which we didn't just talk about the challenge, the task, and everything. One of them was talking about Maddie's final words and how it affected.
I mean, are you talking about about how Maddie tells Mina and Tristan that Mina and Tristan that one of the two of them is probably winning the game, and how that's going to sort of affect the way that the next 2 tribals go with Frost and then Mina going out here? Is that what you're talking about?
I don't remember actually the last words that what wasn't that one that Naran was so pissed oh how dare you say no, yeah, my game and everything. It strikes a chord on everyone but the people that Maddie talked good about.
Oh, I mean, yeah, that too. Obviously, that's going to be part of the the situation too. Is someone like Naran again being on the receiving end of a lot of venom and vitriol in these final words is definitely going to be coming into FTC, assuming he's there, with a massive chip on his shoulder and a lot to prove. And I think Naran probably has to strike a very razor thin wire between being humble and being confident, right? Like that's ultimately what Naran's going to have to do to get back into the fight here, because Naran has to be confident enough to say, like, I did this, I did that, like, look at all that I did, without coming off as, like, so cocky that no one wants to vote for him. And especially in his shoes in this season, that could be a somewhat hard balance to strike, like, finding that line between them.
Is he going to find that line? He's been easily the most over the top character this season. Like, even more so than Abe.
And that's largely been one of the reasons why, thank you for that excellent transition, Naran is going to, at this point, still be my nominee for the first of our segments, Character of the Season, so far to date. So in this segment, each of us on the podcast will choose one person who we believe has been one of the biggest characters on this season. And while there's several choices, and I already know who one of you is going to pick, I think that Naran has really brought so much to this season.
Mina.
Has brought so much to this season in terms of just being like a massive personality and confessional and tribal in every aspect of this game. Like, love him or hate him, Naran has been there.
I'm not picking Mina before. I know you were trying to insinuate that I was going to pick Mina. Mina has been the most dominant player of the season, but there have definitely been better characters than her. There, are you happy?
All right, so who are you picking for biggest character of the season with Naran taken off the board? Anyone who's in jury or still in the game can count here.
Since Abe is no longer considered, I'm going to choose Skylar. Skylar was just a joy to watch, like always.
I love the pick there. I think Skylar's been great in this season as well. I'm very interested to see their take when we get to the jury phase, and Skylar gets to actually like interrogate our finalists, and that's going to be fantastic, or at least I hope it will. Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to see what Skylar does at FPC, like what they have to say, and so on.
Honestly, I was also going to say Abe, but with him out of the picture, I'm going to like. It's kind of like what's the word in Portuguese is puxa saco. It's like, oh no, I know the word, but I don't think we should. I probably shouldn't be saying that.
Say it.
No, I think it is S. No S.
What? Did Abe quit?
I don't know.
Yes,
but...
Abe walked from the jury.
Reasoning?
For personal reasons that are undisclosed.
I'll let you know, and I'll let you know.
Are we talking about? Okay, thank you. But are we talking about who we're most excited about to see in the jury or jury questions?
It's been the biggest character of the season out of people who are either jury or still in the game.
I was going to say Barney, because although he wasn't very vocal character, behind the scenes, Barney has been really playing, especially in these final episodes.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
The immunity wins, the play that he did, confusing with the parchments, was really good. Although I'm still yet to see results of it. I don't know if it's only behind the scenes. What is going on? I haven't seen anything of it. The fact that some of the like him and Mariana consider Barney or himself considers swing vote in this final tribal council before the finale.
Fucking hell.
Although it's not a very vocal character like Abe and Naran, I think Barney was indeed a character.
Yeah, I can buy that. All right, moving on to our player of the season nominees, again, each of the three of us will pick a different player of the season out of those who are either on the jury or still in the game. Who has been the best player of this season? Liv, we'll let you start this one.
I mean, it's pretty much unanimous if everyone could pick the same player. Everyone within the host categories. Mina was the player of the season.
Yeah, I think at this point Mina has definitely been like the player of the season.
Mina,
But
Mina, Mina.
because
Honestly,
each of
just
us is
sometimes.
going to pick
Queena.
But because each of us is going to pick a different name than each other, I'm going to go with Frost for my nominee for player of the
I was
season.
gonna go with that. Fuck you.
I really think that Frost in a lot of timelines like absolutely could have won this game if Frost is able to successfully get Mina out at 6th, Tristan out at 5th. Frost is probably playing Final Immunity for $100. Like, and it would not have been crazy to get Mina and Tristan out in 6th and 5th. Like, it would not have been wild to see Frost win this season. Frost came very close to winning this season, and I think that just realistically, like, with Mina off the board, Frost would be my pick for player of the season.
Queena.
Honestly,
Tara is right turning
on-
for Mina. Like Tara called it.
No, it's not. It's not Mina. You're saying it wrong. It's
Mina.
Queen. Nah.
Oh my god.
Queena.
All right, Boofus, who's your
honestly,
pick?
My pick. Did anyone choose Neuron yet or Naren?
No.
Nope, we haven't
Okay,
taken.
that's me. That's my pick. That's my pick right there.
All right.
Boofus with the hot takes.
What'd you say?
Boofus.
So,
Although
Boofus,
that
why
might
are you
not
picking?
be-
Why are you picking Naran here for player of the season?
Because whenever I talk in submissions to people, everyone else was kind of boring, and Neuron was kind of interesting. And I feel like Neuron has that personality that I vibe with the most, and people like me will root for Neuron.
Does
Maybe
that
guys
make
like
him
you,
a
people
good
like you won't.
player? Does that make him a good player?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. My personal favorite is the best player. I don't care. Let me give a little rank down of the final four. Do we get to final four? Or are we still talking about final five?
We've talked about the vote out at final 5. We've not talked about anything that happened in the final 4 episode.
Okay, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm just going to give a rundown. Boofus's surprise rundown. Mariano, more like Mariana get 3rd place or 2nd. I'm not sure if this is a final 2 or final 3. Neron, amazing. Personality, maybe not as strong as the game as the other two. Tristan, the other two is Tristan and Barney. Tristan, underdog, you don't give a fuck, but I love that. Barney, under the radar. Copycat me with 0 votes. But I wouldn't mind seeing you win because you were a Game Night VC active person back in the day.
I never saw you in Game Night VC.
Maybe that's because you're an OG.
Listen, I just got here, and I'm hella active, and I'm also hella cute.
All right.
Hey, there will be a game
you're
on
also
Monday, so
So resetting for a second.
You tell
Resetting for a
people to
second.
beg to have their votes locked.
So Naran, Mina, and Frost are off the board, and Carlos has a pick left for player of the season.
Mine is going to be Tristan. As weird as it sounds, but it's like even if Tristan didn't win a single like immunity, Tristan still like made it this far, eliminating so many good players. And the fact that we are talking about Tristan is one of the contenders to win this season. Like, oh no, I mean, not winning any challenges as this podcast that I mean, because it's going to be talked about the next one. But even before this one, Tristan was still considered to be one of, if he wasn't voted out, to be like top contender to win the season. So I think Tristan is the play of the season for me.
Yeah, I can absolutely see that. I think Tristan has actually played like a really, really strong game. And actually, let's go into that next. So, out of our final four, who do you think is winning this game? And this one, obviously, we might end up repeating because there's only 4 people left. But out of the final four, who's winning?
Tristan.
Me.
Tristan's winning.
I'm winning. Me.
I'll explain.
Honestly-
Tristan, because I feel like the jury will really respect the underdog story. Like how in the very beginning of the jury phase, I didn't watch that much of the game, but I did know that he was not in a good position in the very start. He was just sociable enough with the other players where he got picked off last of the alliance, as Gabriel told me before. And he kind of used that to his leverage to get through the game and get to the finale. Is it final 3 or final 2? Someone
Final
tell me.
3.
Final 3. So get to the finale, final tribal cancel, and I really feel like the jury will like an underdog game because who does not like an underdog game? Underdog games are my personal favorite, and I really feel like I know Naran and Tristan are close, so I feel like Barney may go to fire here and maybe go home. And if Barney's on the final tribal council, I really think Tristan has no like threat to beat him in the end, if I'm honest.
That's
Yeah,
a
there's
different
really-
opinion. Because I think the opposite. If Barney goes to final tribal council, that's when Tristan has a challenge.
Yeah. I still
Because-
even if Barney does go, I feel like Tristan will pull through the window still.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, I want Barney to win because I think I'm pulling a live because Barney I was the mental health buddy of Barney, and like we bonded so much throughout the season. So like, I want Barney to win, but it's going to be hard. And if I would speak with the head and not with the heart, I would say Tristan wins the season.
I think Barney can definitely win. Barney had the under the radar type game, which I haven't been paying attention much, but if he pulls through with a really good speech about his under the radar game, which I feel like if it's both Tristan and Barney in FTC, questions and speeches will be the utmost important thing for them. Especially Barney, because Barney can definitely win this if he has a killer speech explaining the UTR game. Otherwise, the jurors may think that he didn't play that well. As
Barney
he
has
actually-
been teasing his speech over and over. I think Barney is already preparing that speech.
Yeah, he really needs to pull through.
I am going to go with Barney here as well. I think going in at the start of FTC, it's going to look like Tristan is probably the favorite, assuming that they're both at FTC. It would go in looking as though Tristan is going to be the favorite to win. But I think that Barney has a lot of wizard to reveal behind his curtain in his speech. Look at this thing that I did that you didn't know about. Look at this thing that I did you didn't know about. And I think that as Barney pulls back his curtain and shows just how much wizard was behind the curtain, like, I think that's going to win over a lot of votes. And I think that's going to be enough to get Barney the win here. Obviously, like, this could still go any of the ways. I'm not saying it's like a done deal or anything, but I think that Barney has so much to reveal and demonstrate that, like, I think that's going to give him a massive leg up that that the other 3 still left in the game don't see coming on nearly the level that Barney has.
He just has to survive that F4.
Yep, and that's what it comes down to is A, can Barney survive it, and B, is his speech going to be convincing enough? But that I'm leaning towards he does.
What about you, Liv?
I still think Tristan pulls out the win here. I mean, he's immune. For those that are watching right now, he is the only guaranteed spot in the finale. And I think if people know what's good for them, they'll want to go against one person they have no chance against over 2 people they have no chance against.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this goes, but I mean, ultimately the question is going to come down to like, is anyone going to be able to sell Naran as a potential threat, like specifically Barney here, or Tristan if Barney had won immunity? Like, would whoever of the two is not immune has to sell like Naran could win this game and try to get Naran out at F4. And like that's a hard thing to sell with the number of negative final words towards Naran, but it's not unthinkable. And then, going from there, it's like, okay, well, where do you go from here? And can they do it? Can they pull it off? Etc. And like, it's not like stranger things have happened. I mean, there have definitely been people who have been.
I wouldn't have made the joke with the theme if I watched Stranger Things.
We have definitely seen underdogs come into FTC and win. Like that happens. So
Isn't Tristan technically an underdog?
I mean,
mean,
he's the overdog to win. He just has the underdog story.
Yeah.
yeah. That's an
Overdog's a
excellent way of
term.
putting it.
Overdog's
I love
a
this type of player
term.
so much.
Right?
All right, because this is our last episode before our season in review recap, for one more look back on the season, let's have a segment called Moment of the Season. What is the best moment that has happened this season in each of our opinions? We'll again choose 4 distinct moments. Carlos, why don't you start us off? What's your nominee for Moment of the Season?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say that one. I still think that Abe's video was one of the biggest moments of the season.
Well, no, that definitely counts. Like the video in the tribal there, yeah, that absolutely counts as one of the biggest moments of the season.
Yeah, I still think that was so impactful. If I didn't think that it was so impactful, I wouldn't even put on the trivia as a tiebreaker question. I think
Yeah,
he
but
shifted some of the Osam. He had some space to breathe, um, and he definitely, I think, saved some of the Pagong and got to where we are right now.
yeah, I can see that too. How about you, Boof? What's your pick for moment of the season?
My pick is when everyone used to be in the Tri BC and actually talked. Because during the jury phase, that barely happened whatsoever. It's when like Abe was in the game, Frost and Cat. Is that their name? Cat, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Cat. When they all used to VC together, because that when they game talk too. I feel like VC game talks in public is bold, and I love it.
Okay,
Yeah,
my
the
turn.
formation of the K-Quaft Alliance on the One World VC, that was like a really interesting set of events there, and obviously it didn't necessarily
was
end well
Dino
for all of
there?
them.
Oh, Flaming Dino.
I feel like every time this server has a VC in public, it's the best thing. Like any type of season.
We have had some high intensity VCs in this server.
We
I
really
will give
do.
you
We
that.
really do.
No, I will
Okay,
give
my
you
turn.
that. Yep, go for it.
Dead Cat. Dead Cat wins the moment of the season. The absolute shock value of that, I think, absolutely
Now,
wrecks
technically,
any
that was
other option.
hospitalized cat, not dead cat. But yes.
I don't care. Dead Cat makes it funnier.
So, for those who were not present or watching as closely as this happened, we had a moment where Naran, as part of his task, had to give an excuse to be away for the first 4 hours of the swap phase.
No. Actually, Naren couldn't give an excuse, but Naren gave an excuse before we could say that, outsmarting us.
So yeah, after accepting the task, Naran would have to be AFK for 4 hours right at the beginning of the swap phase. And before accepting the task and therefore before starting the 4-hour clock, Naran walks into Tribe Chat and says, "My cat just got hit by a car. I have to take my cat to the vet. See y'all later." It's like the most unnecessary, incredible, what just happened moment. That definitely
No,
deserves
that's
to be on
actually so
like
smart. That's so smart because
Bart,
no one's gonna
hello.
blame someone. That's smart because no one's gonna blame someone, or they're gonna actually feel bad for them to not even
I
want to like
mean,
put any type of guilt on them for that. You know what I mean?
okay, I'm going to bring back bad memories, but you say that. But last season, someone was voted out because they wanted dad's funeral.
That's true, but last season they were ruthless.
Last season had Tara. That's all you need to know.
Wait, I
Tara-
just want to point out the best part about that lie about the hospitalized cat was Naran went to Frost and was like, what did he say? It was so funny. He was like, I have to go check on my cat, wink wink. And Frost was like, what?
Oh, that's right.
Is the
Why would he
cat's
do
name
that?
Wink Wink?
Shane Dawson and Villain Fiber.
I would have just not done the wink wink. What the fuck?
There were some choices made there. I'll say that. There were some choices made.
Like I think the sympathy thing is smart, but why would you do wink wink? Fuck.
That was the way of trying to. Hey, by the way, it's the blackened task, okay? It's the blackened task. But Frost didn't get that. I think. Did he eventually get that, or I try to remember if he mentioned on call. I don't remember.
So what I'm going to go with here for this one, for moment of the season, I think we've had some great nominees so far, but the other one that I'm going to bring up here is the Bloodbath Tribal at Final 13, where it goes into the tribal basically thinking like it's supposed to be an easy vote off of Cat, and the Ethics 13th on Jake's name said otherwise, by which I mean Naran and Frost basically decide to flip the vote without breaking their alliance as a way to get out a person they think their alliance is reluctant to target in the future, but who isn't in their alliance. And it's like, it was very much a 3 steps ahead kind of move that ultimately is going to go and get Naran and Frost into like very strong positions as the game develops. And sure, like Naran's jury potential in the end is going to be left up to the viewers as FTC plays out and or the Final Four Tribal plays out. But like Naran and Frost strongly advanced their games by getting Jake out there, despite the fact that Naran would go on to have that huge public blow up with Skylar immediately after the Tribal. All right. Any other closing thought as we head into our final 4, last vote out of the season, our FTC? Any other closing thoughts we want to get out there before the season recap podcast?
Mina. Thank you. That is all.
Make it Denmark. No one that doesn't watch Family Feuds memes will understand that. Sorry.
Listen, in every org I've seen Mina play, every single org, Queen Mina comes there in some kind of form because everybody loves Mina. You can't not love Mina. It's illegal. It's against the law.
All right. Well, with that, this has been another spectacular edition of the Villain Viver podcast. We'll be back here, same Discord channel, sometime next weekend to do our thorough season recap and discuss our favorite moments, best characters, best players of the season, and take a look forward to our soon to be previewed season 7. Stay tuned to Finale and Reunion for more information. Signing off from the Villain Viber podcast, this has been Elk. Along with me today we had
Carlos.
This is Liz.